Okay, and then I guess I will give some formal introductions. So I was going to say our session right now is going to be given by Achieve, and it's called Addressing Fundamental Challenges to the Direct Support Workforce. And I'm very excited to dive into that. We have three amazing speakers from Achieve, and I'm very excited to hear from all three of them. I'm just going to give you a brief background. So we have first up Amy Howard. She is Achieve's Chief Executive Officer with an extensive background in human services and over 15 years with the Achieve organization. She began her career as a direct support professional with expertise in the presentation topic. And then secondly, we'll have our primary speaker, William, apologize for the last name, Oglesby. Did I say that right? Okay, okay. He is the Director of Workforce Development at Achieve. In early 2021, he was Achieve's leadership identified a need to strengthen the workforce and created the Director of Workforce Development in October to provide direct focus over the workforce. William accepted the position after being with Achieve for 4 years, starting as a direct support professional for the local day habilitation, making him uniquely positioned to understand the needs of the direct support workforce. Moving through the ranks, he most recently held the position of residential manager at a local residence here in Norwich. William has worked with the team over the last few months, focusing on fact-finding and developing strategies to improve hiring and workforce stability. And lastly, our secondary speaker will be Preston Evans. He is Achieve's Vice President of Development and Donor Relations, having joined the organization in 2018, following a decade with the New York State Senate. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to be a part of the Workforce Summit that's being offered by Commerce Chenango today. So thank you, Catherine. I know most of the people who are on this call, several of them are my colleagues here at Achieve, but for those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Amy Howard. You just heard the introductions, but my role here at Achieve is that I serve, I'm pleased to serve as the Chief Executive Officer at our organization. I am going to be very brief in my remarks, but I just wanted to again say thank you to Commerce Chenango and to express how delighted we are to share with those of you who are watching today's presentation a little bit of information about sort of our struggles, if you will, with the pandemic and with retaining direct support professionals in our organization, but more importantly, what we've been able to do successfully at addressing, what was beginning to be a workforce crisis and workforce shortage for our organization. So to start out, the main event is Bill Oglesby, give a wave, Bill, and Preston Evans, who were introduced earlier. But I just wanted to start out today's session by providing a little bit of background about Achieve. Achieve is an organization that serves individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in 3 counties, those being Broome, Chenango County, and Tioga County. Our agency was founded in 1952 by a set of 10 families who were seeking, at the time, educational opportunities for their school-age children. At that time, kids were not welcomed into the public school system if they had, a diagnosis of what was then termed mental retardation. And so these families, and this was happening across New York State, came together to advocate, if you will, for there to be services for their loved ones. So again, we started in 1952. For many years, we were the Broome and Tioga counties chapter of the ARC New York, which is a statewide organization consisting of 36 chapters across New York State who offer services that are very similar to those that we offer here at Achieve. In 2017, we merged with the Chenango County ARC. Many of you up in the Norwich, Chenango County area will know the entity, the agency as CWS. It was a manufacturing organization on East Main Street there in downtown Norwich, and it had some additional footprint as well. And it also offers a day habilitation service up on Country Club Road up in North Norwich. So we merged, and as I just mentioned, we're a 3-county organization. The ARC New York, the statewide organization, serves over 30,000 individuals across New York State. So we're a very large entity, and each chapter offers a variety of services that I'd like to just tell you a little bit about today. Achieve itself, we serve approximately 2,200 individuals across those 3 counties. We employ over 450 staff throughout those 3 counties. Almost 2/3, and Jamie is our Chief Human Resource Officer. He's on this call. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably about 2/3 of them are what we term as direct support professionals. And these are staff members who work directly with the individuals that we serve to implement, to provide supports, habilitative supports, or to assist with employment, searches in a variety of service areas. But direct support professionals is really going to be, in that position, is really going to be the focus of today's presentation. And so I just wanted to take a minute to explain, what that title meant, in that those are the primary caregivers for the individuals who are enrolled in our various programs. So the second bullet there, you can read the mission of our organization. It is our effort in our attempt in all that we do to enhance the quality of life and the skill development of the individuals that we serve in our programs. We really advocate for and support the concepts of inclusion, integration, socialization, and the building of independence through experiences and other things for all of the individuals that we serve. So we do, just to touch on it real quick, offer a variety of programs in our organization. We have residential programs, 20 group homes that we operate throughout the 3 counties. We have multiple day service options. So we have day habilitation programs such as the one up on Country Club Road in North Norwich, which offers skill development and habilitative services to individuals that live at home or with another caregiver. They might live in a group home operated by Achieve or another provider. And so we also offer a number of supports to individuals and families, primarily families who are the primary caregiver of individuals served. And those come in the form of what we call respite services. So we offer caregivers a break by having their loved one or their individual come to perhaps a recreational programming that we have initiated, or another form of a respite support. Our agency also offers guardianship services. So when there's an aging caregiver or family member who is really trying to plan longer term for who is going to make health and medical decisions for their loved one, they can turn to Achieve for guardianship services and supports in that area. And we also are very proud to offer what is called trust services, which is an ability for individuals and families to open a trust, to be able to place their funds for use when they have specific needs or projects, and then they want to draw down on that account. But it really allows them to preserve and protect their Medicaid funding that they, and other benefits that they receive on a monthly basis. So that is just another aspect of the work and the programming that we offer here. You can always visit our website at www.achieveny.org to learn more about our large number of supports and services and or any employment options that we have in our agency. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what we wanted to really talk about, as we mentioned earlier, Bill's going to spend some time and Preston is going to spend some time to talk about how we have really addressed some emerging trends that are associated with workforce retention, engagement and retention in our organization. But I wanted to just spend one slide before I turn the presentation over to them to talk a little bit about the impact of COVID on our organization. So our agency, boy, going back probably 4 years, identified and prioritized workforce retention as a priority. You know, we know that the quality of the services that we offer to individuals improves as we have stability in our workforce, particularly the direct support professionals, and that we are also able to respond better and more quickly to the needs of the community by expanding programs. As an example, you know, when we have sufficient, levels of workers in the organization. So in our strategic plan, probably 3.5 years ago now, we identified workforce retention as a primary goal of ours. And we had a number of strategies and initiatives that we had planned in the agency to be able to pursue that goal and accomplish that goal. Pre-COVID, we were making tremendous amount of progress. We had some of the lowest turnover rates, employee turnover rates that we've ever seen in our organization. I've been here going on 17 years. And the turnover rates were as low as they had ever been. And we just had a team of workers in the organization, managers, direct care staff on teams, all of us really working toward that one specific outcome. And we were so happy with where we were going and so pleased. It just directly benefits the individuals we serve and allows us to, really meet the mission that has been established for this organization. So the third bullet down shares with you that our turnover rate in January 2020 was down to less than 1%. Those were unheard of levels in our organization. Many workers come to our agency. It's a stepping stone toward, something else, perhaps, they have a career path or they're a student that's pursuing an education. And so it's not uncommon to have turnover in direct support professional positions. We know that and expect that and plan for that. But that rate was down to less than 1% from prior year, January 2019, where it was about a 3% turnover rate in those very same positions. So we were really, really making great gains in this area. And then, as you all know, what happened in the spring is we were introduced to something called COVID. And, we didn't know what it was. And just like all of the other industries and organizations, we were trying to kind of figure it out, what is this thing? And for our organization, being a nonprofit that, again, operates group homes, operates congregate day service programs, we really had to immediately make some very challenging decisions, but some decisions that really impacted our ability to offer program, but also that had a lot of impact on the workers, the employees who were working in those areas. So just to give you a sense of that, I believe it was March 17th, 2020, that our organization, like you saw happen in the schools, needed to suspend all of its day programming. We literally shut down our day habilitation programs for hundreds of individuals and probably 100 or more workers. We needed to immediately suspend those programs. We needed to discontinue or suspend visitation in our group homes, for the individuals who were living there. So we were allowing no visitors into those homes. We were really trying to keep COVID out. That was our main, sort of objective at that time. We were not, like you heard, or imagine would happen. We were not out in the community, having individuals go on home visits or out on community outings. Everything just sort of shut down for our organization for a period of months. In fact, we had a major renovation project happening it was going to be our new headquarters on Vestal Parkway East in Vestal. That's where our Human Resources Division and some of our community-based programming was going to occur. We were renovating that building to be our forever home for those operations. And that had to kind of come to a halt for much of the spring and summer as well. So yeah, that just gives you a sense of kind of where we were at. At that time, as indicated earlier, we were very robustly staffed. We, in fact, were helping sister chapters in other counties who were not as stably staffed. We were loaning our staff to them so that they could maintain operations. We were feeling good, and we were just in a really, really good spot as an agency. But over time, what I would say is throughout 2020 and into the fall of 2020 and into the winter of 2020, it sort of whittles away. It starts to, the workers, maybe are furloughed or on leave or caring for their own needs and their own families. Because remember, children weren't in school at the time. And slowly but surely, we saw, the turnover rates coming up. We saw we weren't in the same, we operate 31 sites in this organization. So we, for a long period of time, were not in the same spaces with each other. We learned how to do this Zoom and Teams meeting thing. And many of us didn't see each other for 1 year or 2 years in some instances. So you can imagine the erosion that had on, our workforce, stability, if you will. And as the fourth bullet there points out, during the pandemic, our turnover rate got as high as 80% for staff who were in their first 90 days of employment. So as staff were leaving, and this was kind of eroding over time throughout 2020, of course, we would be recruiting new employees into the organization. But one of the things that we saw is we could never quite get back up to where we needed to be able to reopen our programs and those kinds of things. And so Jamie, who's on this call, Lisa is our Chief Operating Officer at Achieve. There was a group of us who were trying to understand that statistic of, why are people leaving so quickly? What are the reasons? So Jamie and I started meeting, again, Jamie's Chief Human Resource Officer. We started meeting with new employees at about 60 days into their employment tenure to understand, like, how is it going? What do we need to do in terms of, training them up, making sure that they can successfully work in this hybrid remote world that we now live in, just trying to understand that turnover rate. Meanwhile, the rest of us, many of the folks are on this call, are all still functioning in crisis response mode. Our agency really had to kind of like buckle down, sort of hold on tight and really solve crisis after crisis after crisis. And there wasn't a lot of time for planning forward, if you will, in 2020 and really into the early parts of 2021. So Jamie and I started meeting with those employees, and we discovered some things, and, some of what we discovered was really that, working remotely and not being in spaces together, really had an impact on the level of engagement that our employees were feeling. It had a lot of impact in regards to our ability to really train up new employees and give them all the tools in their toolkit that they would need to be successful in their position, especially the direct support professionals. Remember, we weren't congregating for training, right? We were trying to do it virtually and all these things. So we made a variety of discoveries through those sessions. Plus, obviously, Lisa, our Chief Operating Officer, her assessment as she was trying to understand the very same issues out there in the field with her management teams and such. And what we discovered was that, we were working really hard to recruit, but we also needed to pay a lot of attention to how we were engaging employees in this new era, this new time. And also in regards to what our retention strategies were. Life wasn't the same mid-pandemic and post-pandemic. The needs of the workforce were different, and our organization, to be successful and to become stably staffed again, needed to function differently. We needed to administer to different needs of the workforce, and we needed to really, adapt our practices to be successful. Again, workforce stability results in better outcomes for the individuals we serve. So it really needed to be a top priority. And the last thing I'll say is, that, and this will lead into Bill's presentation, and you can flip to the next slide, and then I'll turn it over to him. Bill's position is Director of Workforce Engagement and Development. And we identified the need for this position midsummer last year, probably more like spring, but we really decided to pursue it in the summer of 2021 for all the reasons I just told you about. And really the goal and the purpose there was to bring him on, and I'll let him share with you some of his backstory and background, but bring him on to, again, 31 sites is how many we operate, and much of it was remote work also at the time. But to get out there and engage the workforce, understand what the new normal is, what the needs are, and help us as a leadership team to develop a plan to be able to be responsive to those needs, and also to develop the workforce so that we can get back to those turnover statistics, those turnover rates that we enjoyed. I mean, we really enjoyed those across the organization pre-pandemic. So I just wanted to provide kind of that backstory for you to sort of set the stage for Bill and Preston's presentation. And I guess at this point, then I will turn it over to Bill.
Good morning, everybody. I am Bill Oglesby. I have been with the chief for 4 years. I grew up as a DSP in this agency and moved through the ranks over the last 4 years. And that background there gives me a little bit of insight going into my new role as workforce development, as where we used to be and where we were, and then through COVID, how things have changed. And obviously as the future, where we want to go as an agency and revitalize our ideals and get back to where we used to be a little bit. I lived in a house with our individuals during COVID, so I really have a good idea of what it was, what our workforce went through. And as a lot of you probably feel, after all that, we find a workforce that's been depleted, taxed, and mentally drained. They've done a lot of things. They've done a lot of things that we didn't expect or ever think we would have to do as an agency or as any of your other agencies out there. So my role is created to get into the workforce, take temperature, see what's going on out there, where they need to go, what they may be looking to do, what their value is. Value is the thing that I've been really focused on lately. Everybody's values are different. My value may be I like my time off, or I like recognition in my job, or there's just everyone's value is different, and we have to find what a value to them may be involved in. So but the first part, we've done this in phases. A lot of this was through different phases. We had to really get out in the workforce as our assessment phase. I took the temperature of the workforce, got out there to see what they're feeling, what they really want out of the agency, what we're going to do going forward, and ask some hard questions. Why would you leave? Why are you staying? What makes you do your job? And try to find the answers that they feel as them and builds their value. The biggest part of that is listening to what they're saying. They'll tell you, and sometimes we find ourselves doing other things and we're not quite listening. So we really have to listen to exactly what they're saying. It's listen, listen, listen. And then we have to take that information and then we have to figure out what we're going to do with it. So at that point, we developed our leadership team, which I think everyone here is on the call. We have our team that we built. It's a leadership focus group to build and analyze all of the data we're collecting. And we want to revitalize our culture and get back to where we were and what we're going to be doing going forward. And while we're out there, you're finding you have your longevity staff and you have your new staff. That this is the two bridges that we're going to have to gap, and their values are different. You're finding that the new staff in the first 90 days with an 80% turnover rate, they're feeling that they're thrown into the job. They're not feeling supported. They may be on an island. And we have to assess those situations and what are we going to do going forward. And our longevity staff are feeling undervalued and overused. They're covering, they're doing all they can. We're short staffed. And that's just where we found ourselves going through the pandemic. We got to cultivate different methods to get through this. The direct force, our team, our leadership team really looked at these directly and what we needed to do. And some of our findings for those were our hiring techniques. We kind of get backed into a corner as in our field that we have to have certain numbers at these IRAs and residents. We have to get them built up. They have to have certain coverages and they have to be taken care of. So what we found ourselves doing is throwing numbers at situations or problems. It could be filling the holes in the positions. It could be pay rate. It could be anything that they're looking for that the teams really, they want. We're just kind of throwing these numbers. So we had to really look back at our hiring techniques, and it's okay to say no sometimes. We don't always have to just hire to fill that position. We want to really evaluate that position and make sure that position is the right fit for what they're looking for. Us as an agency, we really focused on that hiring technique portion of it, really big. We looked at getting these people into our residence and having them interview in 2 different IRAs to make sure that they're getting that right fit. They may say, they're not going to say no, they're going to want to go out and they're going to want to do that job. So you can say, all right, this is your new job. Here you go. Here's your book and let's get going, which we really want to empower them to say, that really wasn't the fit for me. I really like to go and do this type of job. So we really want to empower them to be able to think about what they want and be able to articulate that to us, and get them to that right fit. Right fit, we find longevity. They're going to stay. They're valued in that job. They're finding different values to them. It could be that they like the recognition. They like to be feeling rewarding of working with this certain individual, or they like a younger group of people that they're working with. So this is a lot of stuff that we bridged over and thought of as a team and developed different strategies moving forward. And the onboarding processes and stuff like that, we thought that they really needed that training aspect in more secluded areas. We're finding that their trainings and they're unsupported and they weren't feeling that they were getting what they needed out of it, that possibly during the pandemic and what we were going through, we may be rushing through those situations. It's tough sometimes when you're out there, you're pulled in one direction and you're not fully training your staff in the other direction. So we wanted to really do our onboarding process different and build our philosophies and get back to what we think as an agency and build our values that way. And we're finding really good success in that. We're seeing that the numbers are changing. The numbers are turning back to the direction we really want them to. It's not easy. Change is not easy. Change is hard. But as a team, we found that if we were transparent, and everyone's going through it. And if they can feel it and we can be out there and we can build hope, we take those quick wins. Like we want to be out there in that force. So a quick win would be building that hope. We're changing, we're making direction change. We're listening to you. Those are the big ones that we really focused on initially. And then that we are transparent, that I'm going through it. Our CEO is going through it. The whole agency is going through this. You're not on that island alone. We are working through that. And that's been the biggest change I think that we've really made, is just that everybody's on this team together. And it's not from just you're in your section, we're in our section. We're seeing it that the CEO all the way down to the newest DSP is a DSP. We're doing our jobs. We're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. So that was one of our biggest philosophies moving forward, and making those hiring technique and onboarding processes a lot more successful, making them feel valued and finding that right fit to make sure they're getting what they need out of that. The second part of that in our findings was a training professional development. We found that we can't lead the same as we used to lead. We had to come up with new strategies, and it can't be I'm a military person, so I can't just say, this is how you need to go do it, so go do it. People don't always value that input, or they don't react to that style. So we developed a training leadership program over the last 6 months, and it's going to go on until the end of August, to be more of a transformational leadership style. We're going to transform to this new way of people thinking. It's more empathetic. It's more understanding their value. You can have a single mother that can only work 20 hours for you in a week. One day ago, we might have told her, well, we need 40-hour work week. Well, now we can look at that and say, why can't I take your good 20 hours that you can offer us? And we understand where you come from. We're empathetic. We see that you have a need and we're listening to you. So let's me find a position in our agency where you can work those 20 hours. And we're just finding that type of thinking and that type of leadership is a lot more successful. And that's building our culture. We want to promote our culture in our agency, and we want to see that our cultures are building, and that's what people are thinking of. It's not the numbers, it's not the monetary, it's not the filling of fast positions. We want the right fit for these people. So in our leadership development team, they really came up with that training series that we're working on to build our general leaders to a certain level. We want to level set across the board to get them, and it's not on the job training. It's more that professional, personal type training that I can look at things in a different light. I can think about somebody else's feelings. I can see where they're coming from. I understand the situation. I might have gone through the same situation, so they're feeling it, and it kind of is building our team in that right fit, strong way, and that building value. They're feeling empowered to come forward. They're feeling empowered because they see us out in the agencies. They see me going into all the IRAs, so they're feeling this. They're feeling this connection, which is a lot better for us in the long run. You can go to the next slide for implementing change if you want to, Preston.
Bill, I'm just gonna, if I can just jump in, Bill, just really quickly. In terms of the assessment, just to kind of provide a timeline, you started in October, Bill started in October. We didn't have our initial leadership team meeting to really discuss this for about until December. So he spent a good 2 months just going around listening and just really finding what those trends were across the organization and just really like that digging in deep. For 2 months, for 2 solid months. I mean, he was still meeting with, Amy, our CEO, every week to kind of talk, but we as a team didn't meet for 2 months so that we could really, like, when we finally had that first meeting, really had a solid foundation of what the needs of our organization were so that we could start coming up with solutions. And again, to just kind of summarize it, I mean, Amy had used the term crisis mode. That was all we really discussed at that first meeting. It's just crisis mode for 18 months. It just finally really caught up with us. We're a mission-driven organization, and if you talk to some of our more tenured staff, they will all say the same thing. I don't do this for money. I'm not in this for money. I'm in this because I care about the people that I support. They're my family. It's a mission-driven organization. And when you're just operating in crisis mode, you're not able to be innovative. You're not able to be creative. That slowly starts to wear people down. And that really was what we found. The other thing that I just wanted to add here is this Bill's timing was actually starting in October, was right in line with a communication survey that we did. We have a communication work group as part of our strategic plan, focused solely on internal communication. And what we found is just that the needs of our organization was a moving target. It really and so we did a survey to really kind of hammer things down, and that happened right in line with all of the findings that Bill has kind of outlined in terms of where the needs of the organization were right at the same exact time. So thank you, Bill.
As you can see here, this goes back over the first phase. We did this for fall, winter. This went into the spring, and we started seeing really good results in the philosophies, and people are buying in. You're getting that value, and you're getting that buy-in from all of our employees. Like I said, the first real thing was building that hope that they just needed, that acknowledgement that we're out there, that my position was created. They're seeing someone's face. They can bridge that gap to upper management, to the lower entry level positions, that their voice is heard. Those are all values that they were articulating that they needed going through my assessment process and finding my fact-finding phases. That's what they really, really needed, was just that goal of, we're going to get to the other side. We're going to feel it. We're going to feel empowered. We're going to feel hope. So the training, through the training we're doing now, we're finding that it's the communication style, there's bridging the gap to, you have the bridging the gap from where we used to be to where we are now, and the thought processes that they can be different, that the team built into the agency through an outboarding process. Hold on a second, I lost my page here. Sorry about that. Through the more empathetic thought process is what we're really thinking of, that we build our team up to that critical level. Man, I lost my page. Sorry about that, Preston.
It's okay, Bill. I can jump right in while you're finding your page. You know, I mean, I think what Bill is saying is how important assessment was for our organization, understanding, listening to the workforce, and then really responding through these changes that you see here listed on phase 1, and then the next slide, phase 2, which we have talked about a little bit already.
Yeah.
But building up that leadership team, just as a CEO, I'll just make a comment on that. You know, I mean, building up the leadership team, I think it's important for everyone to understand that, you know, I mean, regardless of the position that you're in here in this organization, we all experienced the pandemic, you know, very similarly, you know. And so, you know, while it was important to assess the needs of the workforce so that we could understand what they wanted, needed, and Bill will talk in just a minute, I'm sure, about the rewards and recognition program that we're putting together. You know, it was important to understand what the needs were. We also understood that as leaders, and we have over 40 of them, just for everyone to know and understand, we call them general management leaders and then executive level leaders. But we have many, many, many leaders across our organization. It was really, really important to us for the leaders to have some time to debrief coming out of the pandemic, right? Is to really understand, you know, the impacts of that, you know, on us. We were in crisis management mode. It was scary, you know, as leaders too, to be in that pandemic and do our work. You know, and then on top of that, layered on top of that, you almost feel neglectful of the direct care workforce that is like out there. And so this leadership training series sort of, you know, in not a direct way, but it probably gave us sort of just an opportunity to acknowledge that maybe. But it also, one of the things that we knew as leaders is that we, you know, that was our current state, that was our experience, but that we also needed to lead the direct care workforce differently. You know, we're going to understand what their needs are through Bill's assessment, but we need to adapt our own skill set as leaders to be able to lead differently post-pandemic. And Bill did speak a little bit about that as well. And so we've been through 2 of 6 months of that leadership training. But I do think, and we have several leaders on this call here today, I think that it is fair to say that each of us has learned, you know, new strategies and has recognized something about ourselves or about our interpersonal relationships here at Achieve that is going to allow us to be better leaders for today and tomorrow, and to meet those needs that have been identified in our workforce. So, Bill, I don't know if you want to touch on rewards and recognition piece of phase 2.
Need to do anything further.
Yeah, and sorry, I did find my spot. In the last part of that, the training professional development, we developed a workforce engagement team that's out and about at all times to keep kind of tabs on what's going on. As an agency, we have realized that as one person, we can't all just be everywhere. So we want this team out there to feel, and if they have an issue or they hear something coming up, that they can bring that back to us and we can address this as our professional development team. It's just a tool to make sure that we're addressing those needs as soon as possible, and they're feeling that rewards and that value coming back to them as soon as they can. That's crucial. And like Preston mentioned in our surveys, a biggest communication and delay. Like if they feel like they're stating that they need help or they need something taken care of, and we're not addressing that fast. So that's where the workforce engagement team came from. And that's ongoing. We meet once a month, and that's out and about to make sure that we are taking that crucial step forward. We did another part was rewards and recognition. Those are two huge things that we're focusing on. The way we used to do things to the way we may have to do them now is it's data driven, but it's also technology. Like how do we reward people? How do they feel valued? What are they feeling? What do they need? So we're looking into an agency that's going to help us develop a bonus program that's a 360 review, that like a peer to peer, a supervisor to peer can do the same type of rewards program. They can right away, it's a social media type platform that they can do their rewards right then. They're going to get that initial and instant gratification for a job well done. And then they can take that, and it's opening it up to a value that they can go and whatever they find value in. They can redeem those for anything that they find value. It could be a dinner. Some people find that they want time with the CEO, a dinner or a lunch or professional development or donating. So those are things that we're looking in, as well as just being well-rounded in that rewards program and up to date, that it changes fast. Preston hit it on the head, and like it's a moving target. We don't know exactly where or when or how we're going to do it all the time. But if we stay ahead of the game as a premier agency and we are thinking outside the box and we're moving forward, that's how we're going to get our success. And on top of that, we're looking at possibly a 360 review program to build our leaders, to build our training, and to make sure we're level set and get that instant feedback from, is our leadership training working? Is our new styles working? Is everyone engaging it? Are they using the information we're giving them? And it's across the board. So that's some of the stuff we're looking at there on the rewards and recognition as well.
I believe that brings it over to me. So one other thing that we did implement in the winter that I just thought was kind of worth highlighting is we had done quarterly all staff meetings, where we do a series of meetings across the organization that every staff member was expected to attend. And they were very well attended. We implemented them for the first time in 2 years, and they were well attended. The feedback we received from them was all positive. People were just happy to be back in a room together. You could feel it. So moving on, did I just need myself? I did not. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the external recruitment methods that we did, as well as, we're 6 months out now, like what have been the results, and what are we finding is working. So for external recruitment, it's been kind of, in terms of resources, it's really been an all hands on deck focused on recruiting and getting, talented workforce and building that talented workforce up. We may have other needs that we need to kind of focus on, but we can't operate if we don't have staff. We can't fulfill the needs of the people that we serve if we don't have people to serve them and to provide the supports that they need. We can't innovate. We can't do any of that. We need to have people. So we hosted a series of on-site and external job fairs. We participate in pretty much every external job fair that comes across our plate. And these are virtual. These are, in person at different locations. We're planning one coming up at the Norwich YMCA. So we have just been hands-on, making sure that we're hosting every kind of job fair and getting our name out there as much as possible through that. Social media, obviously that's a core tenet of what we can advertise and where we can advertise. We've invested a lot of money in boosted posts. But the other thing that we've really tried to focus on with social media is to address the what is going to attract people about our organization outside of our mission. Again, staying mission driven is always our number one goal. But a 23-year-old just out of college, a 22-year-old just out of college who's interested in a direct support professional's job, they're not going to be as interested in benefits when they're still in their parents' benefits for 4 more years. So trying to address, but they may be much more focused on PTO, on paid time out, or focused on a position that has a lot more flexibility and lets them set their own hours. So really kind of highlighting those on social media and continuously evaluating is also, I would say, how it's working and things that are working that way. Statewide, Amy mentioned that we are a chapter of the ARC New York. We are one of 36. This is not, recruitment and retention is not a problem that is unique to Achieve. I mean, we as a community, we just know that this is a problem just everywhere. But all the chapters again recognize that this is important. This is this is important. So every chapter invested in what they called was the ARC New York's Discover the Rewards campaign, which was a complete rebranding of the direct support professional position, so that it wasn't just, come and be a body at Achieve. It was actually, this is a viable career. This is something that people come and they do until they retire. There's career opportunity here. There's an opportunity for advancement. There's a lot of potential here. So rebuilding that, and that was done through a series of TV, digital ads that launched, and it's been an extensive campaign that's going to run through, I believe, the remainder of 2022. But again, that required an investment on our behalf into getting into that Discover the Rewards and getting there. As I mentioned, TV, we've done a number of different spots. Radio, we've run some radio ads, just talking about the benefits of working at Achieve, the vision, the mission of Achieve, and why it's great to come work for us. Something new that we're doing are billboards. So you can see the one billboard there that's just outside Oxford. We also have a digital billboard here in Binghamton that's up. But those are new. Those are just, that one just went up 2 weeks ago in Oxford. Focusing on staff testimonials, the why people choose to work for us and why they want to be a direct support professional, what it means to them. Again, driving the mission, really pushing that mission. And then of course, wage enhancements and investments into staff. We have to remain competitive. We have a full recognition as a leadership team, our board of directors, everybody recognizes that we have to remain competitive if we're going to recruit and retain people. So we have done a number of wage enhancements, a number of investments into our staff. The state recognized this and released funds for us to pump into the direct support professionals across the organization. But that's also been a big part of what we have done. So the results. So as these are recent statistics, so 6 of our residences, our IRAs, are called individualized residential alternatives. But the 6 of our residences, of the 20 residences we have, are fully staffed. Our vacancies are down from 54 in the fall of 2020 to 46, with 14 in process in just our residential program. So really 32, down from 54 to 32 in our residential program. Our turnover rate was down from 5.2% in September of 2021. It's now down to 3. So we're back at, if you remember Amy highlighting where we were in January of 2019, we're kind of back there. So we are making progress, and morale has improved across the agency. As I said, we had the all staff meetings and you could feel it there. Members of the leadership team each were visiting the residences. And I can tell you the first couple months that we did this, some of those meetings were pretty intense, and people were angry and people were frustrated, people were burnt out, and you could feel it. And I can tell you now that when we go, it's more like business as usual. People are, staff are joking with each other. They're smiling. The morale has noticeably improved across the organization, and you can feel it. You can just feel that there's been a little bit of a culture shift. So some of the key takeaways that we kind of have is that from this is just listen. You have to listen. This was, like I said, 2 months of Bill just going out and listening and asking questions and just listening and picking up the trends and what people need, what they were saying and what they needed. You have to invest in valuable staff. If you have a tenured staff that is thinking about leaving, talk to them and figure out how you can get them to stay. You can't fit a square peg into a round hole. As Bill said, you got to find the position that works best for the person. And so we've had to change our whole policy and interviewing at multiple residences so that they can get a feel for which one might be the better fit for them. Which program might be the better fit. Change is hard but necessary. Change is hard. It always is. But in this instance, in order to retain valuable staff, it's necessary. I can tell you those first couple meetings where the leadership team and Bill met, they were hard. But I value the team here and it would be very easy for, I think I saw on the call, I don't have like a list of people, but it would be very easy for anybody in those meetings to have gotten defensive or to feel attacked. And instead there was just an idea that, no, this is what's happening here is for the better of the organization. Were they tough conversations? Sure, but we did it respectfully and we came up with solutions that worked for our organization and that are showing results. Mission, vision, and values matter. We had to return to them. And one thing that we have implemented kind of is that anywhere you go across our organization, our mission, vision, and values are very publicly, you can see them prominently. So mission, vision, and values, getting back to that, you just had to, we used the hashtag achieve proud. We had to remind people of that, and that, bring people back around to that. Communication and transparency at all levels is key. This has been it's been said repeatedly, listening and responding, but also letting people know that we are working on this, so things are happening, that people are working to find solutions to the problems that they're facing, and telling them that's also just as important. And then accountability, it has to be enforced. If staff feel like they can get away with anything, it's going to create morale issues amongst other staff. You have to enforce accountability, but respectfully. And that's where this leadership training, it's all built into, empowering managers to be able to hold their staff accountable, but in a way where they don't feel attacked, in a way where it's mutually beneficial. It benefits, and if it's mutually beneficial between a manager and their staff member, it's beneficial to the organization as a whole. So accountability, accountability impacts morale. So that's kind of the end of our slideshow. Any questions I know there's a bunch of us on the team, but any questions from anybody out there? Stop sharing.
I was going to say, so I actually had one. I wanted to know, did any of you on the team notice with the external recruitment initiatives, was there any one specific way that, blew it out of the water and you saw it retaining a lot of people?
One thing that I know, Jamie, our Chief Human Resources Officer, came to me yesterday and said that applications have been pouring in. And the one thing that we've been doing differently are those billboards. I don't know. I mean, it seems kind of unusual because it's such an old school traditional, media method, but that's the one that it's definitely had an impact. People are definitely, more applications have been coming in. So that just, I find that one interesting. Social media, I mean, we kind of evaluate that on a post by post basis. And so that is always one that we just kind of try to evaluate and make sure that we're putting, especially if we're boosting, that we're putting it in behind the right post.
One thing I'm finding when I'm out there now is our community involvement. If we're like just down here in Broome, we had the bridge run last week. We had our individuals out there. We had signs. We had a team actually in that. If you go into a recruitment process and you have a job fair and they already know who Achieve is and what we stand for, it makes that process a lot faster. You don't have to bridge that gap there. So any community involvement, we do have a job fair coming up with the YMCA. We bridged and made a team with them. So we're going to do that on the 19th. So any involvement that you can see in the community where people already know who you are, I think that's making a big impact as well.
And one of the other things we have a lot of success with is internal referrals from our current staff. We find that to be very valuable. So we do promote that quite often. When we put up a new job post, we send out an internal posting, remind people of the referral bonus that they receive. And, those folks are really apt to go out and tell people about the reward they feel from working with the individuals and supporting those that we do support. And it's, again, as I think Preston mentioned earlier, a lot of those folks aren't doing it just for the money. They're doing it because of the reward and the satisfaction they feel. So the internal referrals have been very helpful for us.
I was going to say thank you.
Question, just more of a comment. I just wanted to commend you on the time and investment you guys put into understanding and, listening, that 2 months of you taking the temperature. I think that is a big miss along, a lot of organizations. And I think it's easy for the HR side of that to kind of be pushed aside, especially in smaller organizations like I belong to. Having the buy-in is great, and you can see an article in a magazine or a flashy social media post about this is what employees want. They want an office with a window. They want paid 100% benefits. And if that's not what your employees value, you're implementing the wrong thing. So I don't hear enough success stories like that. And so I just want to say great job with that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I was going to say, if we don't have any more questions, I know that we're 5 minutes away from the next general session. So if you do have any, questions following up, please feel free to email me, and then I can get it out to you. I can help answer anything, and we can reconvene with the chief staff. But otherwise, I think we're going to end it here. Bathroom break, quick snack, whatever you got to do. And then we will reconvene at the Prevention It's Everyone's Business, which is going to be presented by Kimberly Lorraine from the Shenango Health Network. All right, so I will see you all there.
Thank you
Thank
for
you all for
having
sharing.
us. Have a good day,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey.